Look at the amount of disrespect this would be to William. Meghan does not care about her connection to this family. If you are in close proximity, she is going to steal it to help herself.
Princess Diana. Let me take you through some of this. Krista Benson posts Meghan Markle promoting the coat she wore in Geneva on May the 17th, 2026 while attending the World Health Organization event focused on the harm social media bullying causes to why Radar Online is so convinced that she is preparing to launch a fashion line inspired by Diana, the Princess of Wales, after posting what sources told RadarOnline.com was a carefully curated glimpse inside her Montecito wardrobe.
There is a word that keeps surfacing in serious conversations about Meghan Markle's commercial strategy in the spring of 2026. Not ambition, though ambition has never been in short supply. Not creativity, though creativity is occasionally attempted. The word is desperation. And what makes it so significant when applied to this particular moment is not that it is harsh, it is that the evidence for it is sitting in plain sight, documented across multiple platforms, time-stamped and publicly available for anyone willing to look carefully enough. Let us start with what is being reported. Radar Online, citing sources within branding and fashion circles, is reporting that Meghan Markle is preparing to launch a fashion line. Not just any fashion line. A collection reportedly influenced by the style of Princess Diana. Specifically, the white shirts, the denim, the tailored casual combinations that became synonymous with Diana in the years before her death, the look that represented, as one industry insider put it, glamour without stiffness and royalty without intimidation. The look that an entire generation grew up associating with the most beloved member of the British royal family. That look. Meghan's. Coming soon to a lifestyle brand near you. The sources quoted in the Radar reporting are careful in their language. They talk about Meghan understanding the commercial power of Diana's image. They talk about the strategic intelligence of leaning into those visual parallels. They use phrases like aspirational universe and carefully managed brand identity. What they are describing, beneath the industry vocabulary, is something considerably more straightforward. Meghan Markle, having exhausted the commercial possibilities of jam, candles, honey, flower arrangements, and a cooking show that landed with a thud, is now preparing to monetize the legacy of her husband's dead mother. This is not a subtle strategy. It has not been subtle for years. The pattern of visual alignment with Diana has been documented methodically by royal watchers who have spent years cataloging the specific ways in which Meghan has chosen to echo Diana's image, the outfits, the jewelry, the charitable settings, the photographic compositions. The Cartier watch on her wrist at the Geneva speech was Diana's. The charity work with vulnerable populations mirrors Diana's most iconic public engagements. The positioning as an outsider who challenged a cold institution and paid the price is the central narrative of Diana's own story, repackaged and redeployed for a streaming era. None of this happens by accident. It is a strategy. And the fashion line, if it materializes, is simply the most commercially explicit version of that strategy yet attempted. The problem, and there are several, but let us begin with the most immediate, is that Diana is not Meghan's legacy to commercialize. Diana is Harry's mother. She is William's mother. She is a woman who died before she could shape her own legacy in the way she might have chosen, which means that legacy now belongs, in the most fundamental human sense, to her sons. For Meghan to build a fashion line around Diana's aesthetic without the knowledge, the blessing, or the involvement of William, who is, it bears repeating, Diana's elder son and the future King of England, is not a branding decision. It is a family violation. And the royal family has a long memory for violations of that kind. The timing makes the strategy even more revealing. Consider what has happened in the weeks immediately preceding this reported fashion pivot. The Geneva speech delivered to roughly 20 people in a public square while cyclists rode past without slowing down. The anniversary Instagram carousel with its 24 photographs, 0 family members, 1 borrowed celebrity, and a candle marching a wedding paid for by the British taxpayer. The as-ever relaunch that produced product photography so poor that professional marketers were openly incredulous. A pattern of commercial launches that have consistently failed to achieve the scale or the sustained engagement that the investment behind them demands. Each of these failures has been followed by the same response, not reflection, not recalibration, not the kind of honest assessment that any functioning business requires to course correct, but an immediate pivot to the next thing. Something against the wall. A new angle. A fresh distraction. It is what one observer has called the flood the zone strategy, when something goes badly wrong, moves so fast onto the next thing that the public barely has time to register the failure before the next attempt is already underway. The problem with flood the zone as a long-term strategy is that it requires an inexhaustible supply of new zones to flood. And Meghan is running out of zones. Which is why she has arrived, inevitably, at Diana. Now let us talk about the anniversary carousel. Because the fashion story and the carousel story are connected in ways that the week's coverage has not always made explicit. On the 19th of May, the 8th anniversary of her wedding to Harry, Meghan posted 24 photographs to her Instagram account. We have covered the specifics of that carousel in detail: the absent mother, the erased royal family, the single Elton John who is Harry's friend rather than hers, the solo shots that outnumber the couple shots by a significant margin. But there is one image in that carousel that deserves specific attention and has generated significant discussion among those who have examined it closely. The photograph shows Harry in what appears to be a heated exchange with a member of the household staff, specifically, according to observers who have studied it carefully, with a nanny employed by Prince William and Catherine, who was present that day to manage George and Charlotte's participation in the wedding party. In the frame, the children appear wary. Harry appears agitated. And Meghan, visible in the background, appears to be watching. The image was described by those who analyzed it as looking less like a sweet wedding memory and more like a document of a confrontation, and one that raises the question of what exactly was happening in that moment and why. Of all the hundreds of photographs available from that day, Meghan chose to include this one in her curated public anniversary post. There are two interpretations. The first is that it was chaos, that the carousel was assembled hastily, under pressure, without the careful curation that a public post of this significance required, and the image slipped through because nobody was paying sufficient attention. The second interpretation is more troubling and has been raised by multiple observers independently, that the image was included deliberately. That Meghan wanted the world to see Harry in a difficult moment. That the anniversary post was not simply a commercial exercise or a romantic gesture but also, at some level, a statement about Harry, one designed to remind the audience of tensions that existed even on the day they were married. Which interpretation is correct? Only Meghan knows. But the fact that the question is being asked at all, that observers looking at an anniversary post find themselves wondering whether the bride was deliberately making her husband look bad, tells you something important about where this marriage and this brand have arrived 8 years in. And then there is the silence. Because the most devastating aspect of Meghan's anniversary week was not what was posted. It was what was not. The guest list at the Windsor wedding in 2018 included some of the most recognizable names on earth. George and Amal Clooney, Oprah Winfrey, David and Victoria Beckham, Serena Williams, Priyanka Chopra, Idris Elba. People who command enormous social media followings, who regularly celebrate their friends' milestones publicly, who participate actively in the culture of celebrity tribute and anniversary acknowledgement. Not one of them posted a word. Not a story. Not a comment. Not even a like that made it into the public record. This is not normal. In the celebrity world, anniversaries of this significance generate a chorus of public affirmation from those who were present on the day. The silence that greeted Harry and Meghan's 8th anniversary was not the silence of people who forgot. It was the silence of people who chose not to speak. And that silence, as one observer noted with quiet precision, was utterly damning. The reporting from those who track these relationships closely tells a consistent story. The Clooneys, who by some accounts had never actually met Harry and Meghan before the 2018 wedding, attended King Charles's charity event last week. They are photographed at events. They simply choose events that do not involve the Sussexes. The Beckhams have been seen publicly with William and Catherine. Oprah Winfrey has not been photographed with Meghan in years, and sources suggest she has actively encouraged her own circle to be cautious about public association with the Sussex brand. Even Serena Williams, by most accounts the closest thing to a genuine friend Meghan brought to that wedding, has, per the most recent reporting, cooled considerably. What this represents is not simply the natural ebb and flow of celebrity friendships. It is a collective social verdict rendered by some of the most strategically minded people in the entertainment industry. These are not people who make careless choices about their public associations. They have calculated, each in their own way, that proximity to the Sussex brand carries more risk than reward. And they have acted accordingly. Imagine going from a wedding packed with the biggest names in the world to 8 years later with not one visible celebrity friend willing to publicly wish you a happy anniversary. That is not bad luck. That is a consequence. Meanwhile, the fashion pivot toward Diana raises a question that the Sussex operation appears not to have fully thought through. Diana's image, her wardrobe, her aesthetic, these are not uncontested commercial territory. They are deeply personal to William. They are deeply personal to Harry, whatever his current distance from his brother. And any attempt to build a commercial product line around visual echoes of Diana without the involvement or the blessing of the people who actually carry her memory is a move that will be noticed, that will be discussed, and that will not be forgiven easily by those it affects most directly. The deeper problem is the one that has always been the deeper problem with the Sussex commercial project. Meghan does not have the personal brand equity to carry a fashion line on her own name. The jam did not sell at the required scale. The cooking show did not land. The candles are not moving product at the rate the investment demands. The Netflix money has been spent. The As Ever brand is stalling barely a year after its launch. And so she is reaching for something borrowed, not just the Diana aesthetic but the Diana emotional resonance, the Diana moral authority, the Diana global recognition that Meghan has spent years carefully positioning herself to inherit. But legacy is not transferable by styling choice. You cannot put on Diana's watch and become Diana. You cannot replicate Diana's white shirt and denim combination and inherit the love that an entire world felt for a woman who earned that love through decades of genuine, unglamorous, sometimes dangerous service to people who had nothing. Diana walked through minefields. Diana sat on hospital beds with AIDS patients when the world was afraid to be in the same room as them. Diana earned every thread of the legacy she left behind. And the idea that a fashion line with carefully coordinated neutral and pastel garments can access that legacy commercially is not a branding strategy. It is a miscalculation so fundamental that it reveals exactly how little the Sussex operation understands about why Diana was actually loved. Harry is watching all of this from inside the same household. And those who believe they understand his current state of mind suggest that something is shifting. He has been increasingly present in conversations about returning to the United Kingdom. He has spoken publicly about wanting closer ties with his father. He has attended events alone, without Meghan, with a frequency that has not gone unnoticed. He is a man who can see, even if he cannot yet fully articulate, that the life he is living and the life he wanted are not the same thing. And the children, Archie and Lilibet, growing up in Montecito without knowing their grandparents, without knowing their cousins, without the family and the culture and the country that shaped their father, the question is whether Harry will act on what he is beginning to understand before the cost becomes irreversible. Every week that passes, every anniversary carousel posted, every Diana fashion collection teased, every Elton John borrowed and every Doria erased, takes him further from the family he came from and deeper into a project that is his wife's and has never quite been his. The window for a different choice is not closed. But it is not open indefinitely. And the woman on the bicycle in Geneva, riding past without stopping, is not just a metaphor for Meghan's public standing. She is a warning about how quickly the world moves on. If this video gave you something to think about, please hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who care about the real story behind the headlines. Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss our next video. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you in the next one.